but also passionate about audiovisual. So we're very honored to welcome this evening 3 passionate photographers. The title of this exhibition of Bertrand Delais, whom we are very honored to welcome here in The Hague, in this Alliance Française, who traveled all the way from Paris, but there is a lot of political action at the moment, as everyone knows, for honoring an exhibition entitled Intimité. How should I translate Intimité? Intimacy? And this audience tonight is quite intimate as well. We're a small circle, but maybe we are mirroring the theme we want to talk about, so it's more than appropriate. So I shall introduce you very rapidly, the 3 of you, and I thank you so much, our very distinguished guests. Mr. Dirk Jan Visser, sorry if I do not pronounce your name very well.
Very close.
Thank you for being so generous. And Mr. Daniel Heikens, for being here with us, because we endeavor with our seasons of Regards Croisés here in the Alliance Française of The Hague. Every month we endeavor to bring together Dutch and French-speaking artists, authors, thinkers, philosophers, so that we can foster closer bonds, understanding and knowing each other across our 2 countries. So it's a great honor that you accepted to be here at quite short notice, for what I understand. I want to pay a great tribute to Annabelle Cloudon, who is our intern from École Normale Supérieure of Saclay, who has worked tirelessly to bring all of us together this evening. Also Alice Bouchard, who is not there, from ISIT, another very prestigious school in France. So thank you for all our other young, talented interns and students who have also taken a great interest to making this moment a little bit special. So thank you so much. So first of all, I'd love to introduce, obviously, Bertrand Delais, who's been a friend of mine over the many years, I must say. But I discovered recently that Bertrand was also a photographer, because he's a Bertrand, you studied law in Paris and social sciences in the very prestigious École des Hautes Études en Sciences Sociales. Over the course of your career, you have created several TV channels and directed a number of documentaries, including 2 about President Emmanuel Macron, would you believe? So you are very close to all these incredible political figures in our country. And in addition to this, as I said, you are the just former CEO of La Chaîne Parlementaire. You just completed your term in this very prestigious role very, very recently. And so you definitely have an insight in everything which is public, but tonight you decided to address intimacy, everything which is not public. So that's very interesting how you're doing this kind of grand écart in between everything of your professional life and your way of looking at the world. So it's extraordinary. So your photographic work has been exhibited at various prestigious galleries in Paris and Barcelona, such as the Galerie Gadcollection, Galerie Sit Down, and Pigment Gallery. So the Alliance Française of The Hague is not such a prestigious location for your photography, but at least it is a beating heart of French culture. So thank you so much for honoring us, Bertrand, of your presence with your artwork. It's a great privilege that I measure completely, so thank you. We are very happy to have invited around you to discuss your work and contemporary photography. Very distinguished photographers and specialists in photography from the Netherlands. So namely Mr. Dirk Jan Visser, who is himself a celebrated documentary photographer and a committee member of the World Press Photo Foundation, which aims at promoting the development of photojournalism and facilitating facilitating the transfer of knowledge. You are lecturing at the Royal Academy of Art in The Hague, and you are also a founding member and curator of the Atelier Anne de Midoniec, and founder of the New Horizon Initiative. Here again, I probably didn't pronounce correctly this very close again. So we're very honored that you should be here, and I'm very glad that you can exchange with Bertrand, because you have so much in common again, and I think a lot of passion, definitely. And Mr. Daniel Huykens, yourself, you are a distinguished documentary photographer and photo editor at the Algemeen Nederlands Persbureau, ANP, and a major news agency in the Netherlands. You studied at the Royal Academy of Arts, and you were awarded a BA, Bachelor of Arts in Fine Art Documentary Photography, before studying photomechanical and photographic process at Leiden University. You are also an appraiser and founding member of the Dialogue Vintage Photography Foundation, and which is a non-profit organization aiming at furthering interest in vintage photography. You're also a lecturer at both the Kunstmuseum and the Photo Museum in The Hague. So we couldn't have brought together more quintessential photographers around this table. And obviously, I'm going to give you the floor. Both of you were able to go through Bertrand's work, and I'm sure you're having a lot of questions to ask him. Maybe, probably also comments and reactions crossing the path of your careers. But I have a first question for Bertrand. How can expressions of intimacy be found in the ordinary? That is to say, what do such expressions that we can contemplate on our walls reveal, according to you, about us as human beings? And why did you choose photography to reveal these elements, these dimensions of human beings?
In fact, okay, thank you. In fact, I began with photography. When I was in a very famous photography club in Paris with Robert Doisneau and Willy Ronis when I was 13. And I make my first exhibition I was 15. And after that, I learned photography in this club. And with the photography and the work about the light, with the light, I try to become movie director, film director, and I make documentary in the French TV. So I've lost the photography because I work like photography, like filmmaker, like a documentary. And I make this during 30 years with a journalist activity because I want to make film about politics and history. So also my passions. And when I take the direction of the Parlementaire channel, I couldn't make films. It was finished for me. And I wanted to make something like photography, to have something for me, to be alone, to be quiet, with the contrast with the job of the Parliamentary channel.
So most interesting, we can understand that it's all in the eyes, really, in between documentary, photography. It's the way you've been casting a certain educated way of capturing.
Yes, but the big difference, it's in the look, but I think when you make photography, you are alone. When you make films, it's a team. A team with 10, 11, 20 persons. So you are a little manager with a project of the film, but you are a manager. when I work like a photographer, I am alone, or sometimes there is just one person, my artistic director. That's all. And I think that there is a common point. So in a film like photography, it's tried to show that the eyes can't see. So for me, that is the first definition. So when you make poetic films, you try to show that something you can't see or understand. And it's the same with photography. You saw a light, something, and you try to show that the eyes can't see. That's first. At the second, for me, I explained to my films are films about world worries. So politics, war. It's very, very hard. And my photography is I try to catch the tranquility of the world. There is a contrast. So I say in France, so my films are films about the inquiétude du monde, et my photos are photos sur la quiétude du monde. C'est, pour moi, there is a complementary.
Fantastic. Really very enlightening. So I would very much love to give the floor to our guests. Maybe Daniel Heikens, would you love to react on this? It's quite extraordinary to hear a photographer saying that photography is there to show you what the eyes can't see.
Yeah, I work in another way, I think.
All right.
Maybe
we give you the floor
there
for...
are many approaches, of course.
Yes, because of the recording. Thank you so much.
Is it working? Yeah. No, what I do is I don't like working alone. I like people. So in my photography, I'm always in search of people and connecting with people, and especially with people I don't know. I'm very curious. I remember as a kid, when we were going to a restaurant, for example, I was always staring at people, fascinating by how they were behaving, moving, looking, interacting with each other, and I was always slapped on the fingers by my mother, don't stare at those people, don't stare. And in the end I found the perfect excuse to stare at people and thereby connect with people. And this is for me the most important approach for my photography as a documentary photographer. Yeah. And I think people can see what I photograph, everybody can see it, but I see it in my way and I try to catch my approach. So in that way there is a similarity, of course. Yeah.
Yes, and I guess when Bertrand was saying you're alone, I mean you are the one photographer capturing the world around you, so rather than opposite to a team filming.
Yeah, but as a photographer I also like to connect with other photographers and join in my latest book. I was working with another photographer and designer from the Design Academy in Eindhoven, but he studied public space and how people interact in public space. So there we found a connection in how people behave in public space and our approach as photographers. And I'm starting a new project also with another photographer from The Hague, because I like to, well, it's difficult on your own sometimes to do a project because you're always in your own mind and it's hard to reflect. But when you work together with another photographer, for example, you can always challenge each other and become better and more sharp and see things from a different angle. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
Most interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you for this first reaction. Maybe Dirk, you want also to react?
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I only have a lot of questions because when I reflected a little bit to my practice, I mean, I also don't see photography or documentary photography as a lonesome only one individual doing a practice. I mean, also in my practice, it's like my teams are from 4 till 30 people working on a documentary project. So basically, my question would be like, is it also and don't get me wrong here, but is the photography practice you are encountering with yourself, is it also a way of reflecting on the documentary films? That it's somehow to I mean, I understand that. Well, I mean, I think the three of us know how to make a documentary project, and it's like super busy, and it's like people looking at you, and it's stressful, and there's a lot of on stake, and but I mean, when I look at the work, and you say like it's something for me, like as an individual, I can also imagine. Well, therapeutic is a big word, but it's a way of like dealing with other things.
Je vais le faire en français parce que c'est assez. J'ai peur de pas assez et tu traduiras. En fait, dans mes films, il y avait déjà un point commun dans la démarche, c'est que je travaillais beaucoup à partir de ce qu'on appelle des bons titres, c'est-à-dire des photographies que je faisais, par exemple de Macron, puisqu'on le film sur Macron, etc. Et ensuite, je faisais se promener la caméra dedans pendant 6-7 secondes. Et j'aimais bien ce décalage entre une photo qui va être faite au 200e de seconde et d'un seul coup, vous la voyez pendant 6 ou 7 secondes. Il y a une espèce de dilatation du temps.
So, are you getting this in French or not at all? Not at all, not at all. So I'm going to try to translate, not to forget, because it's a long sentence. So, Bertrand, you just expressed that when you were doing documentaries, you were capturing a lot of images, but at a kind of fast speed. Whereas with photography, you could use these kind of tracks of images, but slow down the images to capture the essence of these images on a longer kind of period.
Et en fait, ça, c'était ma signature comme documentariste.
That was the signature of Bertrand as a filmmaker, documentarist.
Et ce qui me semblait intéressant, c'est que ça permettait de mettre quelque chose d'irréel dans un propos qui était un propos journalistique.
So he was that kind of focusing on certain images allowed him to add a kind of irreal atmosphere or element to very basic documentary realistic images.
Alors après, il y a une photographe pour qui j'ai une admiration incroyable dans le travail parce qu'elle va vers la peinture.
There's a photographer for whom Bertrand has a huge admiration because he feels she's going towards painting in photography.
C'est Sarah Moon.
It is Sarah Moon.
Et en fait, Sarah Moon, j'ai eu la chance de la rencontrer et très souvent, elle a choisi de ne pas faire d'individus, de faire des objets, après elle a fait des mannequins pour la pub.
He was very fortunate, Bertrand, to meet with her, and she focused mainly on objects, not on people. Afterwards, she photographed models as well. Yes.
Et donc c'est comme ça que maintenant je commence à travailler sur des portraits.
So now
au début, j'ai travaillé sur des fleurs, sur des éléments d'architecture pour essayer de retrouver cette géométrie, cette lumière.
He tried to work like her, mainly on flowers and objects and elements of architecture, to work on the light and the structures rather than characters and portraits. But now, because of the inspiration Sarah Moon is giving to him, she's also moving towards human characters, so he is also going to approach that.
Mais par exemple, la dernière chose, je travaille sur la matière. Dans les films que je faisais, qui étaient pourtant des films entre guillemets journalistiques, je travaillais toujours en étant sous-exposé pour retravailler l'étalonnage, pour avoir du grain, enfin une impression de grain sur l'image. Et je fais la même chose là, donc il y a une signature sur l'image elle-même.
So there is a signature on his work that becomes very technical for me to translate, but he's trying to work on the very material, the fabric of the picture, so that it's an under Tu as dit un sous,
Exposé.
under exposition, under of the light, under lightning, underexposed, correct? And that gives a quality.
Après, c'est à l'étalonnage.
Et alors, pour l'étalonnage, là, je suis incapable de traduire ce terme, mais en tout cas, voilà un terme technique de photographie, which allows to give this kind of very quality of the photography, which is really nearing painting, which been inspired by Sarah Moon. I hope this answers your kind of question, elements of it.
Half. Yeah, half. Yeah. No, thank you for this extensive answer. You know, it's answering like half because I'm, like you're talking about intimacy and photography, and well, I mean, this is so far away from any political documentary, so it's like it feels almost like a really radical stand for a maker. Like you're famous because of your in-depth documentary political work, and then suddenly you come with the theme on intimacy, and it's like it's the opposite almost. It's like the big world versus the small world. It's like the openness versus like something that's almost closed. So I'm wondering, like, well, I mean, where does it come from? That's I'm wondering, and then the next is like, because intimacy, also I see it with my students. A lot of students are working with this notion of intimacy, and it's also a form, and that's, well, question for you, to have grip on the world, to understand the world, because we can't control anything. It's very hardcore outside and inside, like intimate. Like I have control. So that's the other question.
It's also what I heard from other teachers from the Royal Academy of Arts in The Hague. What I find fascinating is, and you can say this better, I think, but that less and less students are photographing people. They're going like into themselves. They're afraid to go out on the street and approach someone. It's becoming more and more intimate with themselves.
No, I fully like that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
It's probably the truth. I think that in my job in the field of politics, there was a sort of social pressure that was very, 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 very important. And this contrast with this work is very important to stay alone with myself.
Yeah.
To go inwards.
Yes.
Let me respond now, because I think it's like the photographic medium itself is like super broad. I mean, you can do so many things, like, well, and you can make political work with photography, but also like this to the inward is also like a form of photography. And what I think is fascinating for me is that, but intimacy is also something very personal. So it's your form of expressing intimacy. As a maker, I mean, well, I'm the audience, or we are the audience, and sometimes I really feel it, the intimacy, and sometimes I don't understand, and then if I don't understand, then it becomes immediately politics for me. Anyway, but it's also like so cultural bound, and like who you are as a person, how to read an image, and like to understand the notion of intimacy. So, I mean, a reflection, no question, but...
Yes, I know that the opposition between the films and the thematics of the film and this work is important for just to laughing, but when the Figaro make an article for the exhibition at the Pigment Gallery. In the article, the paper of the Figaro, there was nothing about the pictures, and few. En fait, ils ont donné tous les noms des politiques qui étaient venus au vernissage. Voilà.
Sorry. Well, I mean, but this is also like what I will ask a question. Is that problematic for you?
No.
Okay.
No, I explain forward. When I make the film with Emmanuel Macron at the first year as president. So for me to do a film like this is probably the sort of graal. So to have 4 years to have discussion with the president to make film, and after that, I lost my energy to make other film. For me, it's finished. So it's another life for me. And at first, I have a manager of a channel TV, or now about a studio, like producer. But a sort of poesy, or my world is in photography. So before, my world was in the picture of my film, as there is an intellectual interesting about the subject of my film. There is a two. Now there is my intellectual preoccupation are in my job, and my sensibility are in this work of photography. But I don't want to make film another. That's all. It was a life before.
All right, so it's finished.
Yes.
Only photography.
Yes. Say, I think that I couldn't have the same energy to. It's very, very difficult to make a film with probably the same in Netherlands with a French president. I say every pictures you must to take with after a big combat, because it's very, very, very difficult. And other films are boring for me. So it's not so stressed, so it's so challenging, and I think that I couldn't make more. So probably with Donald Trump, but I don't want it. But probably that's all. And I'm very happy to make that. But
it's also tiring to work as a documentary photographer because of the constant interaction. You're constantly thinking. When you go inwards, it can become more at ease or relaxed, or I don't know. It's.
I think that's completely right. It is much more safe.
Yes.
And also, like, the bullying from the outside is also, I think, less.
Yeah.
Because it's your world, it's not the real world.
And I think it's quite a bit of pressure if you have to make a film of Macron. The world is watching you. I mean, the stress is big, and when you go inwards and go intimate, like with your work, it's becoming more quiet, I would say, in your brain, in your heartbeat, everywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Je vais le faire en français. En fait, ce qui est intéressant dans ce genre de film, même avec un président, c'est qu'à un moment donné, on va pouvoir capter quelque chose de lui qui lui échappe. Et j'avais fait le générique du film, c'était le président Macron en train de se maquiller, enfin de se faire maquiller, avant une intervention télé. Mais j'avais filmé le miroir. Dans mes photos aussi, il y a souvent le miroir. Je passe par un miroir, en fait.
So Bertrand is saying that indeed it's very challenging to do such a film, but he's saying that even when doing the film about President Macron, he's trying to show the behind the scene that people can't really see, and especially a scene where he's having his makeup being done, and he did not film his face, but his face in the mirror. So this process he uses as well in photography. So he's always trying to take a distance from the object of his work.
Et quand Macron a vu le film, il m'a dit, j'ai pas aimé le générique parce qu'on va trouver que je suis très narcissique. Bah, tu es très narcissique en fait.
So when Macron saw the film, he said, people will think I'm very narcissistic, but he said, but you are. So that's really very interesting, you know, the revealing process of all of it. Yeah, more reactions.
Yeah, no, I mean, I find that very funny because I think you have to be a little bit narcissistic to be a politician. Otherwise, I mean, it's not a big difference in France or in the Netherlands. No, I'm wondering if I look at to the photography, and it's not the teacher that's now talking, but I'm wondering, how do you come to the work? How do you make the images? Is there something in your head, and then you start reflecting it, or are you walking around with your camera and scouting for beautiful scenery and lights? Like, how does the work come together?
Alors, je travaille avec un... En fait, j'ai repris la technique que j'avais appris à 15 ans.
So Bertrand took up the technique he learned when he was 15 in that school of photography of Douaneau.
En fait, je travaillais à l'époque avec ce qu'on appelle un 6-6, c'est-à-dire un format carré, qui était un Lubitel.
At the time, he was working with a format called 6 out of 6, called... you talked about Lubitel?
Lubitel.
Lubitel.
En fait, ça avait deux avantages.
Had two advantages.
Ça me permettait de recadrer parce que le négatif était très grand.
It allowed him for reframe because the negative was very big. He said he talked about a square frame.
Et la deuxième chose, c'est que comme il n'y avait pas de filtre pour ces appareils, je travaillais beaucoup avec des collants de femmes que je mettais devant les objectifs.
Because there was no filter at the time for this kind of camera, he would use nylons or tights of women to put on the
to make effect to
give this
yes.
effect of.
And now I work with numeric, but it's a plein format. At 50 millions de pixels.
50 million pixels.
Yes, en plein format. Ce qui me permet de recadrer aussi.
Full format, which allows for him to reframe.
Et je n'utilise pas de filtre et quasiment pas de travail après.
So he uses quasi no filters and no rework afterwards.
Beaucoup des miroirs piqués, des vieux miroirs piqués,
but a lot of old tainted mirrors.
Ou des bas de femmes.
Or again, women tights or
donc l'installation est tellement compliquée que je ne fais pas beaucoup de photos. En fait, je ne pars pas avec mon appareil comme ça. Je me mets à un endroit, j'installe la lumière et j'attends qu'il se passe quelque chose.
So the installation is so complex that he would set up this whole device, this whole system of filters, and he's waiting there to capture what's going to happen in front of it.
C'est plus proche de la photo animalière que autre chose.
It's more like photographing animals, where you wait that they come in the front of the objective than others.
Par exemple, cette photo-là,
For example, this
c'était dans un musée.
It was in a museum.
Il y avait ce rayon de lumière.
There was a ray of light.
Et j'ai dû faire une trentaine de personnes qui passaient à chaque fois.
And I took
Parce que je voulais le pied, c'était là où il y avait la lumière.
30 persons passing by, and I wanted to take a kind of leg or
voilà,
foot.
Avant de trouver celle-là où là le comment dirais-je la robe se confondait avec le fond.
And at one point,
parce que c'était une vitesse lente.
Yes, the dress melted with the light, and that allowed the blending of the dress into the light, and that was
et c'est ça qui m'a intéressé.
And that captured the effect I wanted, I was looking for.
Thank you. And yeah, just let's go on with this. No, thank you for the story. And is that already at the beginning like this notion of the theme of intimacy, or is this also something that you come along the way?
Est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui, dès l'origine, est ancré en toi, ce thème de l'intimité? C'est ce qui a été ton point de départ, ou bien c'est arrivé chemin faisant?
En fait, c'est mon galeriste Gadcollection qui m'a dit, en fait, c'est là où tu es le meilleur, et il faut que tu aies ce filtre-là de l'intimité dans ton travail.
In fact, it's the owner of his gallery, the first gallery that exhibited him, that said, this is where you are at your best, according to him. So I would invite you to continue to exploit this kind of theme, because he felt it was really unique and very special with him.
En fait, on a toujours besoin d'un regard extérieur.
So that concurs with what Lionel was saying. You always need an external perspective on your work. Yeah. Yes.
I'm interested. Did you work with Ronnie and Duano, or was it the school of Ronnie?
Alors, moi, à titre personnel, je préférais Willy Ronis que Duano. Parce que
he preferred William Ronis to Duano, but did you work with them?
Oui.
Oui.
Every Saturday.
So
every Saturday.
Really?
Yes.
Incroyable.
During 2 years. And c'est lui qui m'a appris le recadrage.
That's him who taught me to reframe.
Because this is a completely other way of documentary making, what they did, opposite to what you are now making. So it's a big...
Grand écart, yes.
Oui et non, parce que
yes and no.
Willy Ronis was communist. And il y avait un engagement politique très fort dans sa photo.
He also had a very strong political commitment through his photography.
Et on avait, dans le club photo, on avait autant de discussions sur la photo que de discussions sur les grands débats des années 70 dans la société française.
As many debates on photography as in the great political debates of the 60s and other years.
Par exemple, il avait expliqué que, et moi j'ai toujours un regard assez sévère sur Salgado, parce qu'il disait, un ouvrier, on ne peut pas le photographier quand il souffre. Parce qu'on sait immédiatement ce qu'on va créer. Et donc, c'est malhonnête. L'ouvrier, on a un discours politique, mais on doit d'abord le respecter. Et donc, il y avait une espèce d'utilisation de l'image qui était à l'opposé d'un Salgado.
He would say, for example, that you cannot, for example, capture the picture of a working man suffering, because then you will know what you're going to project, and this is not the political message you want to convey first. You need first to convey the respect for the worker, and then develop the political message.
This is opposite of Salgado.
This is the
definitely, but in our Dutch eyes, French photographers, Duano, Ronnie, also you, it's a very romantic style. So it's indeed not showing what is actually there. I think the more north you go, maybe in Europe, the more people want to show what is actually there. Or I don't know. It's a different way of approaching your subject. Also, what do you show and what do you not show? But this is exactly what do I see and what do other people not see? Or maybe other people see everything, but you point it more in their face in this way. I don't know.
Cette photo à Paris a été achetée, le premier tirage, par Sabine Azema.
This photography was bought, the first development of this picture, by Sabine Azema,
qui est une actrice française, mais qui a fait un film sur Duano.
Who is a French actress, she's very famous, who also made a film on Duano. Amazing. Amazing, really, full circle. Yeah. But it's so fascinating that you would discuss how in the Dutch photography or the Nordic photographers' culture, there is a specific language, a specific photographic approach that you would oppose to French more romantic visions and so on. So
also romantic photographers here in France.
Surely.
Versa, of course, but
yes.
Yeah. We're talking about Duano and Ronnie and...
Yes.
Do you know, is this? Sorry, is this?
Yes,
is this
the Magnum photographer. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Regard croisé is completely embodied tonight. It's just fantastic. Incredible. Would you have more reaction?
Not for now.
Not for now, of course. But thank you so much for bringing so many reflections and having you. First of all, we would like to give you a first round of applause for extraordinary revelation. before we move on, to give the floor to our audience, obviously, and we trust maybe Laurent will tell us if there are online questions as well, which we will be very happy to take. So please, who would like to put the first question? Yes, maybe Ilan.
Mr. Delais, you said that that photography was a way to be alone, in a contrast of your public like action and your public how do you say public work, your public job. But is it your intimacy you wanted to show through this photography, or is it the intimacy of other people?
Je suis pas sûr d'avoir totalement compris.
Le champ de ton intimité que tu as voulu révéler ou le champ de l'intimité d'autres personnes?
Non, c'est mon intimité. It's my intimity. Mais surtout dans le travail sur le flou, la peinture. Ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est que j'ai fait de la photo parce que je ne sais pas peindre. À 13 ans, je suis rentré dans un club photo. En fait, je ne sais pas écrire. J'ai fait mes études en n'écrivant quasiment pas. Tout par la mémoire, parce que j'ai eu un accident petit et que j'ai un vrai problème de savoir écrire avec la main. Et c'est une grande frustration pour moi de ne pas savoir peindre, parce que j'étais dans une famille où on était collectionneur d'art, on aimait la peinture tout le temps, et que c'était un truc qui m'était totalement interdit. Et c'est comme ça que j'ai cherché un univers photographique qui se rapproche de la peinture.
That's very interesting. So thank you so much for sharing, Bertrand. It's very personal. So Bertrand explained to us that when he was very small, because of an accident, he could not so much write. He couldn't so much master writing. So he was very fascinating about painting, and his family was collecting art. But because he had all this kind of impediments, let's say, he wanted to near as much as possible the world of painting. And that's how, from the age of 13, joining this photographic club, he was trying to near painting as much as he could through photography. And that's the answer that he gave to Ilan. So thank you for these incredible questions that give us an incredible access to Bertrand's amazing career, starting from such difficulties, doing this leap to incredible achievements. It's most impressive. Maybe giving the floor again to our audience. Fanny, are you inspired? Yes, okay, we have 2 questions for you.
I was wondering, Bertrand, why did you choose this blurry effect on your pictures, and do you think that this effect with the grain renders intimacy?
Le mot intimité, quand même, ça.
Oui.
Pour moi, les effets, c'est une sorte de poésie que j'essaie de donner à l'image, à l'ambiance. Et le mot intimité, c'est le fait que je suis seul. C'est ce que j'expliquais un peu tout à l'heure.
So the effects, really this kind of blurring and giving a very poetic effect, it's about dwelling into Bertrand's own intimacy and really rendering his loneliness.
En fait, il n'y a pas beaucoup de trucs, c'est-à-dire il y a les colonnes femmes, les miroirs, donc on travaille toujours avec un miroir piqué, et puis des vitesses très lentes. Et je ne les mets pas sur pied, c'est un peu technique, mais j'ai un monopode, donc ce qui veut dire que je sais très bien que si je mets 2 secondes, ma main va quand même un peu bouger.
So there are
rajouter du flou, en fait.
Yes, there are not a lot of artifacts used to create these blurring effects. Basically, these women heights, these slow motion, and also a monopod that Bertrand is using, because he says if he doesn't have this, after 2 seconds, he will maybe shake a little bit and then he will lose what he's trying to get. That would speak to you as photographers, that speak to us as much. Yes. Thank you for this question, Annabelle. We had a question from Emma.
Thank you. I wanted to know at what scale do you consider a photo being intimate or not? And has it changed in what you see in your life? Je peux faire en français?
Oui, en français aussi.
Ok. Plus proche? Ah, pardon. À quel moment est-ce que vous considérez qu'une photo, elle montre de l'intimité ou non? Et est-ce que ça a changé votre vision de l'intimité de la vie?
Alors, j'ai ce filtre de l'intimité, mais pour moi, ce qui va décider que la photo, elle est réussie ou pas, c'est en fait au moment où quand j'ai fait mon travail, on a le fichier numérique, on ne voit pas bien, et c'est quand ça sort sur l'imprimante. Et là, il y a la même sensation que j'avais quand j'ai commencé la photo avec le révélateur. À l'époque, on mettait la photo dans le révélateur et puis on voyait ce qui se passait. Et si on est surpris, pour moi c'est fondamental ça. C'est-à-dire que si le résultat vous surprend, c'est que la photo vous échappe et donc elle est réussie.
So about intimacy, it's very personal, but for Bertrand to understand and know when a picture is really what he's looking for, it's the moment where it comes out of the printer. In the old days, it used to be what you call the revelator. Dark room, that's it. And he says when he sees the results and if he's surprised and if it astounds him, then it means the picture is really what it should be and is an achievement. If he doesn't get that moment of surprise, then no. But if he gets it, then yes.
This is the feeling we are all after.
It's fantastic. It's good to hear that. Good to hear that. Yes, another question.
Thank you all for your stories. So, as someone, as the spectator or the looker at the photographs, to me, and hearing your story a little bit, it comes across as if it's very much a reaction to your previous work and your filmmaking professional activities. It feels almost as if, but maybe this is a reflection that you don't recognize, but it feels almost as if like it's a healing process for you, or if it's like meditative mediation. Kind of, now going inward and wanting to be alone and reflect maybe on kind of like a counteraction. So I wonder if that is also the case, because that is kind of intuitively how I perceive this work. And also if the other two photographers kind of recognize these processes in life after you have worked for 5 or 10 years on projects with passion, and then at one moment, things change, or something happens in your life, and you want to move on and reflect and change your practice.
Very interesting. Est-ce que c'est un processus de guérison?
Ouais, de guérison, je sais pas. En fait, c'est... Comment je vais dire ça? En fait, quand on fait des films politiques,
When you do political films,
et qu'on est un réalisateur connu à la télé,
that you're a famous movie maker on television,
en fait, vous êtes toujours sous observation.
you're always being observed.
Ça fait partie du jeu.
It's part of the game.
Ça fait partie du jeu avec les politiques, ça fait partie du jeu avec la presse, c'est la règle.
Yes, it's the rule between politicians and with the press.
Et alors, quand vous avez eu la chance de faire 2 films avec le président de la République, c'est vous montez d'un échelon dans la pression.
When you are fortunate enough to have done 2 films with the new president of the Republic, then you are even upscaled in terms of being observed.
Et effectivement, c'est là où thérapie ou je sais pas. Mais moi, j'avais besoin que ça s'arrête.
But I needed for that to stop.
C'est-à-dire que j'ai fait ça pendant 30 ans.
I did this for 30 years.
Et je faisais la photo comme oxygène à côté, mais c'est pas indissociable. C'est-à-dire que là, j'ai pris la décision de quitter la chaîne du Parlement et de prendre la direction d'un studio d'un point de vue plus, on va dire, justement, photographe, production, etc. Mais en étant beaucoup moins exposé.
Photography was like oxygen. Now I'm moving on as being a director of a studio, a producer, so with photography as well. So to change and shift from this world of being overexposed and under pressure to more creative.
Il y a un moment où c'est fini. Je ne sais pas pourquoi, mais c'est fini.
There's a moment it has to come to an end. He can't explain why, but that's how it happened.
Yeah?
What about you?
I can go first.
Yeah, go first.
Well, I definitely noticed change in my work and how I approach my subjects. I was just telling, I'm working on a new project, and it's for the first time in my life I've been working on a photography project for, I think, already 6 months without making one photo. And for me, it's an approach to not just go out and put the camera somewhere where I think it's right, but go inward first, think about what do I actually want to show, what do I want to tell, what do I want to share, and then so I'm slowing down in my process. Also, I'm getting slower and slower and taking the time, and there's definitely a completely different approach in also what I photograph and how I photograph it. I don't want to put it in someone's face anymore. I need to work around the subject more and see what's going on the rims of the subject, because it's a bit abstract to explain, but yeah, I definitely, I don't know if this is an answer to your question, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your very kind question. No, I think, like, I mean, when you get older, I'm still very young, of course. But I mean, you take new experience in, and you process them and reflect on them, and you move on. And in the beginning, when documentary was very much, well, my intention of making documentary work was always very much, motivated by the notion of making impact and working for change. And I also realized after a few years that although the work does it works. I mean, it's in the newspaper, it's in magazines, it's like on the whatever exhibition at the UN. It's not necessarily maybe it's naive for me, I don't know, but it doesn't. The change is not going rapidly enough. So it's also like in that my practice involves also like, okay, the decision, can I be a decision maker to make the change? So I'm using also my practice as being much more political, and then also political as a politician, and that's what I'm aiming for. But always using photography or the creative practice as a feeding thing that somehow motivates me, and also bring it to make it political. Yeah, as a statement. I hope that.
Probably another explication. So when I was young, I remember that it was a very, very, very important citation of Wim Wenders with the film email über Berlin.
Über Berlin, from Wim Wenders, the film.
Les ailes du désir.
The Wings of Desire. I saw that film. It's beautiful. It's The Wings of Desire.
So when he had the prize in Cannes Festival, he explains that he has a conviction that we can change the world with pictures.
We can
change the world with pictures. And for me, it was very, very important, like sort of fondateur. So now, I don't think so.
You don't think we can change?
You don't
Yes.
think?
Okay.
No.
I think that you can't change the world with pictures.
You can manipulate minds with pictures.
But I think that I was young, but it was very, very important to think that you can change the world with a picture when you make pictures. But now, for me, that's I don't think so. It was a sort of pornography of pictures in the world, pictures all the time. So pictures loss of sense, and it's probably very, very difficult to have a sort of je sais pas comment dire, sacred. In the pictures, and
Sacred.
probably the difference between my work like a movie director and photographer is probably in this point.
It's most interesting. Obviously, when I was listening to you, I was thinking of, obviously, the slogan of one of our famous magazines, Le poids des mots, le choc des photos, the weight of words and the shock of images. I think, obviously, you all are working on this dimension. I think photography, when it becomes a work of art, definitely opens inner windows in the spectator, but it's definitely an incredible work. I think of Yann Arthus Bertrand, of course, who is one of our famous French photographers at the moment, whose photography combined with filming also like such work of arts like Home or Women or Humans is really very impactful to deliver a message about inclusivity, sustainability. Some of our gracious intern students here wanted to place these SDGs here because we are always striving to put them forward. I think you are contributing to creating more human world through your photography. Obviously, AI now is coming into the picture, so to speak. So I would be very tempted to ask you, how is AI impacting your work or not? Or that would be a question out of the blue like this.
That's a big question.
Well, I use AI in my work, yeah, big time, to the max. But I think what is relevant, I think there are two things on. Yeah, and also like for my position in World Press Photo, of course AI is a big thing. And over last year, we didn't include it in the competition. But I mean, I do think that in a few years we have to do it, include it in the competition, because it's there. I mean, you can't avoid it. You can't. But the question is like, how do you deal with it? And I think AI also has very positive things, as long as you are very clear and open and transparent about it. And now I forgot his name, but we had quite an interesting lecture as a board by a professor from New York. God, I forgot his name. But he had the concept of the four corners of an image, and he said like he had this idea of like if we have online photos, and we don't know whatever it's AI or not, or it's the reality or not. Like also like you can manipulate photography very easy also without AI. You just give a caption and everybody believes it, because photography is very a medium of verleiding. attention and seduction. Thank you. So here the four-corner principle. So the corner says like, who is the maker? What the other corner is, what is he aiming for? What is the context of the work, and there was something else. So and then whatever is an AI image or not, then you understand what the motivation, the drive is of this maker with the image. And I think that's very important. I mean, at the end of the day, AI is there. I mean, you also see it in governments. They use AI to summarize very difficult reports. In photography, also in Adobe Photoshop, there's AI. Like all the hard work back in the days of retouching things. Now it's like one thing, and the whole image is perfect. So it's everywhere, and I think it's important that whatever you do with images, you just say like, I used it, and this is the reason for, and I use it because I want to achieve this, and that's what my idea about AI.
It's also about creating a system around AI, how to deal with it as a world. I mean, at the World Press, when you enter a photo in the competition, you have to show your raw file, right? So you have to show the original file. You can manipulate a photo, of course, you can darken the sky a bit, and that's legit to do. But I mean, there could be a system. Also for newspapers, they should also always check this, and they should also check captions in the first place, of course, if this is connected to the photo truly or not. But there should be a system, but we should welcome AI. My work became so much more easier. The thing I hated most was writing to get your new subsidy. All the papers you have to write, now you enter a few things and rats, there it is, here you go. You adjust it a bit, and then, but it's making our life more easy, so you can focus on the things you really need to do, I think, yeah. But we are all aware of it, so yeah, we've seen the photos of Trump getting arrested, and I mean, they were all fakes, but they looked so real, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, so like maybe last thing, because I'm using AI in the New Horizon Initiative project, and what I do is that I'm interested in the interest of different entities in a landscape, so human interest and non-human interest, also the position of, for example, a bird or a horse or whatever, and then I photograph like with I read. Based on scientific input, I somehow get to understand what their interests are in a landscape. For example, what is the interest of a snake in a landscape? You can photograph it, and then I'm using AI with all these images to render the perfect landscape for a snake. And then you have the perfect landscape for a bird, and what happens if you combine these landscapes. So the starting point is very much like documentary photography. I document, and then I use AI to understand like what are the interests. How would a perfect landscape look like when the snake has a say? And for that, I think AI is a magnificent, super cool tool.
Fantastic, and not surprising that the Netherlands is at the forefront of technology, because we always feel that you are a step ahead of a lot of technology. It's a great feeling we share amongst the French community, thinking that. Bertrand, et pour toi, l'intelligence artificielle, is it going to impact your work? Has it already impacted it or not?
Could AI make your work?
Non, c'est marrant parce que je réfléchis à une histoire des images, comme film, comme producteur. Et je n'ai pas trouvé les auteurs encore.
So it's very interesting because I am thinking of making a film about images.
The story of images.
The story of images. So he hasn't found yet the people who will collaborate with him to do that, but what you're saying is very nourishing.
Et le fait que les images avec l'IA arrivent à une époque des faits alternatifs.
So the fact that images with AI are arriving, are possible at a moment where there is fake alternatives.
Alternative fact.
Yes, alternative facts. Yes, that can be fake.
Ça n'est pas un hasard. C'est-à-dire, il y a là, à mon avis, quelque chose d'intéressant. Alors, je pense que c'est aux artistes de s'approprier l'IA
It's for artists to appropriate for themselves AI,
pour qu'elle ne nous dévore pas.
for it not to devour ourselves.
Pour moi le danger, c'est ça, c'est-à-dire que si l'IA reste dans la main des éditeurs, des producteurs, des politiques du métier, alors on peut craindre à une forme de comment je vais dire, de stéréotypes des images qui vont se créer.
If AI remains in the hands of creators, of artists, of politicians, you even said, you feel there's a danger that...
Il y a une forme d'image, on va dire, comme un étalon, comme une image de base, qui une image parfaite, entre guillemets.
The perfect image might become the standard.
Et qui va empêcher toute autre forme d'image.
Right, which may prevent any other form of image to be.
I think I understand you, but and maybe you're right, but what I see in my students, for example, is that there are two, well, there are more, but like two main streams. Like one is they really embrace the new techniques, and the other, they are hardcore avoid these new techniques. So what they do is going back to the darkroom. And then going back to the physicality, and then something, because I mean we all have the age that we were trained in the darkroom, and my students, they are 20 years younger and they are not trained in the darkroom. So then they come with prints, what we think like this is not a darkroom print, it is shit. and they don't care because it's not the image, it's the physicality of the object.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's encountering your story.
Okay.
Fantastic. Lionel, I don't know if you want to react.
I had a question, but it's gone again. So
Okay, so it might come back to you. Anyway, that's wonderful. We've already been around the table for an hour, but if there is one last question or two last questions, yes, Amel.
Thank you for your sharings. I have a more practical question, I would say, about colored and black and white picture photography, because Bertrand, we have a whole floor in the Alliance dedicated to black and white pictures, but it's a question for the three of you, of course. How do you choose to have a picture in black and white? Do you choose before taking the picture or after, because it is, I don't know, more beautiful? Or what do you want to create with black and white pictures? Yeah, I can say it also in French. Pourquoi? Yeah, it's for the three of you, because I mean, maybe you also choose to have black and white photography. I don't know. Okay, interesting, because I was wondering, yeah, pourquoi vous choisissez d'avoir des photos en noir et blanc et d'autres en couleur? Qu'est-ce que ça crée? Qu'est-ce que ça apporte? Et surtout, est-ce que avant de prendre la photo, vous savez qu'elle sort en noir et blanc, ou vous avez un appareil photo qui ne prend que en noir et blanc? Enfin voilà, c'est très
alors moi je travaille avec deux boîtiers. J'ai un boîtier monochrome et un boîtier couleur. Donc, quand je prends la photo, je sais, si je le prends avec le monochrome, que ce sera du noir et blanc.
So Bertrand works with two, you call boîtier box. Is it photographic camera? Yes.
Two cameras.
Two cameras, and one is only for black and white, one is only for color. So if he chooses one, it cannot be different.
Alors,
c'est avec des films.
Non, numérique.
Numérique. Digital, sorry.
Le choix, c'est la lumière, souvent. Il y a des lumières, je me dis, ça, c'est beau en noir et blanc.
The choice dictates, the light dictates the choice.
C'est pas le sujet, c'est pas...
It's not the subject.
Et après ça, il y a aussi un travail sur ce qui n'est pas vrai pour toutes les photos qui sont là, mais je réfléchis beaucoup au support.
There is also a work on the material used to print.
Ouais, c'est-à-dire, par exemple, le noir et blanc, si on le tire sur de l'aluminium,
black and white on aluminium,
c'est très intéressant.
It's really beautiful, very interesting.
Il y a des photos, je sais tout de suite que je vais le faire sur de l'aluminium.
Some pictures I know
Par
I'm
exemple,
going to print them on aluminium.
La photo qui a été faite au musée Soulage, qui a des taches tout en noir.
The
avec
picture on the Soulage Museum, which is all black upstairs.
Donc je voulais travailler loin et dès le départ, je savais que c'était pour un tirage sur de l'aluminium.
I wanted to work on black and I knew it was going to be printed on aluminium. Yes. Lionel, you said you never work on black and white. Do you want to explain?
It's very important, I think. Black and white,
If you want.
color. It's in the end, it's the message you want to show, and it doesn't matter if it's in black or white. So for me, it's never something I think about, to be honest. Yeah, and you can always adjust it later if you want, but it's never my choice somehow. I don't know why. It's not I don't think about it, to be honest. No, for me. I also don't think the camera is not important for me. Also, it's a box with a hole in it, and you have to capture the light in the end. That's all about that's photography, but it's the story you tell. It's how you show it in the end, what you show and what you don't show. That's what makes the story for me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking sometimes it can change the eye that you have on the photo. I don't know.
Oh, it has big impacts.
Yeah,
Black,
yeah.
definitely. No, there's a big difference between black and white and color photography. Definitely. Yeah, yeah. But it's never my choice somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? Back in the days, you had black and white film and color film. So the decision was already made on forehand. I started with black and white because I could develop myself. And also print myself. I didn't master color photography to develop and to print. So it was always like coming from, well, I was 15 when I started at the photo club in my hometown. It was always black and white because that is something you could do. And for a long time, I kept on photographing black and white. When a client would say I need color, then I would do color. But my natural was always black and white because I had the idea that I was trained as a black and white photographer. And then later on in projects, I started to using black and white and color as a very conceptual choice. That, for example, in a project called Offside, which is on the war of Nagorno-Karabakh, the color photography was very much related to places. And then my black and white photography was related to time. And then I used also a lot of archive photography, and that was the connection between the place and the time. So then the black and white color had very much a practical function or a conceptual function of telling the story.
But it is important, you have to know what you photograph. I cannot make a photo and then afterwards think, am I going to keep this in color or black and white? Because the contrast, everything is different when you shoot color or black and white. So it has a total different impact. Yeah. I always shot in color because you could also shoot or print color film black and white. But not vice versa. With a black and white negative, you could not print color prints. But vice versa, you could always, well, maybe I'll try black and white, and you could try it. Yeah. But I was not as steady separated as you, I think. Yeah. But it's a technical decision in the end, and there are so many decisions you have to make as a photographer.
Yeah,
so,
but it really helps me in photographing. I decide on forehand, color or black and white. It's not that I photograph and think like, oh, maybe in black and white looks better, because then you don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's what I think.
No, but it's true, definitely.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, this is whatever. Yeah.
Fascinating. We're about to wrap up our conversation. Just to make a little reference to the Arles Photography Festival, which is happening nowadays in France. Have you been part of it? Are you following what's happening there for many years? What do you feel about this festival of photography? Are there similar photographic festivals here in the Netherlands or elsewhere in the world that you think equates or at the level of the Arles Festival of Photography?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. No, I mean, what I think about Arles, I think it's very nice and I think it's very good. But I sometimes doubt whether we need these festivals because I mean, yeah, but that's like a completely other conversation. But I think what I'm striving for is that photography is not only a medium that stays in photography, in the bubble. And these festivals are very much focused on like, this is the bubble, and when you're part of the bubble, you are welcome, and if not, then please go. Meanwhile, I think photography should be a medium that is also in ecology and in politics and in economics, and like it should be much broader. And I would be interesting that for me festivals like a photography festival should be much more open to not only the bubble but to everyone and other topics. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you very much talking about inclusivity. What about you, Daniel? Have you ever participated in this Arles Festival of Photography?
No, not as a photographer. No. But it's unique for Europe, I think, Arles. But I'm not sure if I understand what you're saying, but it still has to be there, I think, because it has to be shared around the world, and there are not many opportunities as an artist to show your work, and this is a place where a lot of people come together who are interested, and they can then divide it in their newspapers or wherever in their bookstores, or so it will spread around the world, and it will reach the politicians, and it will, but not as quickly maybe as you want. I think you're an idealist, and you want to make impact now and not tomorrow, so
like what I would be interested, for example, can you organize a festival for the ocean? And then you include not only scientists, but also include photographers working on the ocean, topics around the ocean. And then you can also have the scientists and the activist groups and the shells who are drilling in the ocean, like all these people to have a festival around a bigger topic. And then I think photography can also shows its value much more than...
No, I understand what you're saying, and this is very interesting. I think we were talking about this, that someone from Greenpeace now goes and work at KPMG, which is a highly commercial, but they infiltrate and they try to work from there, and that's I think very good. So I understand what you're saying. If you combine all those worlds and work together, then you can truly make an impact. Yeah.
Bertrand, une réflexion sur le Festival d'Arles ou pas spécialement? Est-ce que tu as été déjà accueilli? Yes, Bertrand was already presented in Arles. So.
Moi, j'ai pas été représenté, mais j'y suis allé plusieurs fois.
Attended several times. It was not presented.
So I was in 3 times, I think. But I prefer another festival, not so famous on Arles, Legacy. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Legacy, so someone in the audience knows. Fanny does.
Yes. Parce que there was most contact between photographer and people than Arles, who's it's now so sort of an institution. And when I was in Arles first time 20 years ago, it was more convivial. So now
more friendly, more
friendly,
inclusive, and so on.
Yes.
Fantastic. And my last question now would be, obviously, what about mobile phone photography? Has it got a place? Can we talk about it or not? Actually, I personally was involved in helping a mobile phone photographer who worked a lot with Nokia to present his film during the South African season in France a couple of years ago. And we presented a huge exhibition on Nelson Mandela's and Desmond Tutu's contribution to the world through his mobile phone photography over the many years. He's an Irish photographer called Don Mullen. And what is your perspective on mobile phone photography? Is there space for such a medium, or not? Or it's a very genuine question.
I think it's amazing. What can I say? I mean, for me, photography, I think you as well, it's like a box with a lens and it comes light in and it captures. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's in a Phase 1 or in a Hasselblad or a mobile phone. So, yeah, definitely it exists. And even more, it's so democratic now. Everybody has his own camera and that has bad things for footprint, but also I think very good things. I mean, we would never have understood the war in Syria without any cell phones. Yeah. Anyway, but also imagine, like when my first digital camera was, I think, a Nikon D100.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
128 MB for a memory card.
Exactly. And like, I couldn't control my colors. I mean, it's like when I see the image files now of the camera, then it's like, it's so bad. It's like, I mean, I need AI to render them into. There was no color. How do you say? I couldn't control the colors. It was a mess totally. And now with the new phones, it's.
No, the phones we have now they're way better than the first digital cameras we had. It's crazy. It's amazing, but it's also good, I think, because everyone can make aesthetically beautiful photos now. So. As a documentary photographer, it's not about the aesthetics anymore. That's the most important for a lot of photographers. It's not about in the older days. It was a lot of. If you look at all the Magnum photographers in France, they're all about the aesthetics, all beautiful pictures, and they capture great moments in a beautiful aesthetic way. But now everybody can make aesthetic photos, so it's not about the aesthetics, but about what the photographer is saying.
It's about content.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for these amazing answers.
The conclusion, it's Robert Delpire. It's Robert Delpire, and it's a very famous gallerist and editor of photography in Paris. And I say, with a mobile phone and Photoshop, it's very easy to make pictures, and that's the reason that it was very difficult.
Fantastic quotation to end with. Anyway, we want to thank you so much for sharing so much about photography this evening, and really we hope to see your photographies as well. It was so kind of you to come and share about Bertrand's work and journey with photography, but we hope you feel welcome to present some kind of work in the near future, or having your students or other people that can use the Alliance Française as a place of expression as well. We would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.